Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day for On SI since August 2019, and we are marching forward to another offseason together. As always, you can find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every day on social media when you follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Today, we are talking about the three Jaguars players who seemingly are facing the most pressure to perform leading into the 2025 season. Now, this is based on a variety of things, based on the simple facts, what everybody knows about the construction of the Jaguars roster, how they've gotten to where they are, and how the new regime obviously comes into play. And then it's also based on things, obviously, that we've heard, both publicly from the new regime and also privately from those within the franchise, and from what we've seen on the practice field. So the three players facing the most pressure to perform for the Jaguars in 2025, to me, it's a fairly simple list. I'll start by saying this. Trevor Lawrence is not on the list because by pressure to perform, is there pressure on Trevor Lawrence to perform for people on first take to think he's a good quarterback? Probably so. But I'm talking about pressure to perform that impacts their future in Jacksonville and as Jaguars. In my opinion, Trevor Lawrence does not have any kind of scenario where he has any pressure to perform that would change or dictate his future in Jacksonville. But these three players, to me, do. Starting off, I think, one of the more obvious ones, running back Travis Etienne. I'm of the belief, through the 7 or so offseason practices I saw, that just seeing how Liam Cohen wants to run his offense and what I think he'll want out of the running backs, I still think Travis Etienne has the best argument right now to be their running back one. I think that they have enough guys in there that no one guy has to dominate the load. I think Tank Bigsby, especially when they do gap scheme runs, will be a big part of their offense. And if the offensive line is better at blocking gap scheme than they are zone scheme, which happened last year with Tampa Bay. Liam Cohen said he went into Tampa Bay wanting to be a zone-based running scheme, but the offensive line and running backs just did better with gap scheme. If that's the case, I could see Tank Bigsby taking over Travis Etienne in this respect. Then obviously you have Tuden, you have LaQuint Allen, two guys who figure at some point to factor into the offense, whether it's Tuden and his home run hitting ability as a runner, whether it's Allen and his ability on third downs as both a pass protector and pass catcher. They obviously have a lot of different options at the running back room. To me, how Etienne performs this season, he's clearly in a contract year. He's one of two players on this list who are in a contract year. How he plays for the Jaguars this year could really dictate what the next stage of his career looks like, whether that's with the Jaguars, whether that's with another team in free agency, whatever it looks like. Etienne has a lot, in my opinion, riding on this year, even as it pertains to staying with the Jaguars or not. So I think Etienne needs a big season this year. Obviously, there's a lot of competition at the running back position. There's a lot of questions. They took two running backs on day 3. They were prepared to take Ashton Jeanty at number 5. They were prepared to take, RJ Harvey, I believe, I'd pick at number 70. I still think they're better off as a team this year utilizing Travis Etienne, because I do think, even if they don't see him maybe as a running back, the long-term bell cow guy of the future, I just think he brings enough to the table and the different things you can do with him on screens, manufactured touches, etc., just his athleticism overall, especially when healthy, that there's reason to believe that he can make an impact on this team, at least in 2025. But still, a lot of pressure on him. Number 2, in terms of Jaguars facing pressure, I think Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd, obviously, another guy entering a contract year, like Etienne, a former first-round pick, but from a previous regime. This regime has nothing in terms of ties and connections to him. This isn't the regime that drafted him or developed him for his first couple of years. To them, he's a fourth-year contract year veteran who I think, is clearly set to start alongside Foye Oluokun once again. But can he produce and can he fit the scheme that they're looking for to want them to invest in him past this season? The Los Angeles Rams school of thinking in past years, other than I think Bobby Wagner that 1 year, and that proved to be a mistake, was or has been not to really invest in the linebacker position. They play a lot of late round undrafted guys there. If the Jaguars were to keep Devin Lloyd, it wouldn't be very cheap, I would imagine. He's been a relatively productive player, at least the last, 2 seasons. I'd say his rookie year is probably his roughest. Has that former first-round pick pedigree. I don't think that he's going to be necessarily a cheap contract in free agency or even for an extension. So can he put the tape out there this year to convince a brand new regime, a brand new coaching staff that he is deserving of them to kind of tether themselves to? That is the big question. And I do think he'll get the chance. I think he's going to start, obviously have a big role in Anthony Campanilla's scheme. He just does some things that some of the other linebackers on their roster can't. From a pure height, weight, speed standpoint, his length, obviously, he's the best athlete the Jaguars have at linebacker. And, of course, he now has 3 years of mostly starting experience that, motivated Devin Lloyd, now knowing he's in a contract year. Maybe that could be what spurns him to have really a breakout year. So I do think there's a lot of pressure on him. I've said before, I can see a scenario where he does have a good year and maybe they don't even bring him back. And I think that would have a lot less to do with Devin Lloyd and a lot more to do with how they view the linebacker position. But that's something that, like I said, I think Lloyd will be a really good litmus test for this Jaguars regime and how they view linebackers. It's something that's going to come down the road, obviously, after this upcoming season. But a lot of pressure right now on Devin Lloyd to perform. Lastly, this guy, we know ETN's going to play some. We know Devin Lloyd's going to start. The last guy, it's a question of how much he's actually going to play right now, in my opinion. And I'm surprised to say that, and that's right tackle Anton Harrison. We've talked about it in previous podcasts, how it certainly seems like he is battling Chuma Edoga for that starting right tackle spot. If you had asked me in April who would be the starting right tackle, I'd say Harrison without even hesitating, while acknowledging that they did add depth and potential competition. But after watching the offseason practices, I'm not sure Harrison should be slotted in as a week 1 starter. I'm just not sure that the reps are really being divided like that right now. I think he has to win that job during training camp. And I'm not sure if Lloyd has that kind of pressure on him in training camp. ETN, to an extent, maybe, because he's still competing with Bigsby and Tootin for reps and that kind of stuff. But, regardless, one way or another, ETN's going to touch the ball. If Anton doesn't beat out Chuma Edoga for a starting spot, he's riding the bench. Former first-round pick, had a really strong rookie year in pass pro, had a really rough go at it in 2024. Start the year, settled in some, and end of the year okay, but he even said the end of the year, it wasn't the kind of year that he wanted. And obviously the Jaguars have kind of made it clear, both through how many reps Chuma Edoga has gotten over him and through their words, that they expect Anton to improve quite a bit if he wants to start. Liam Cohen said it, the best. So when Anton wants to go, he can go. And that just shows you what they're thinking about Anton right now. Anton has, to continue playing, be a starter, has to win this job against Chuma Edoga in training camp. It's the most important position battle for the Jaguars. And if not, the former first-round pick could already be sidelined only into year 3 of his career. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other platforms. You can also find us on YouTube every single day when you follow us at Sports Videos on SI.